Djonai Carrington is on the brink of being dropped by Reebok. And let me tell you what, man, this is not good for Djonai Carrington at all. And then you have this going on as well. Thousands demand Reebok drop Djonai Carrington after brutal attack on Sophie Cunningham. Hold her accountable. I firmly support Reebok dropping Djonai Carrington's endorsement.
Djonai Carrington is looking around the room like, oh my God, I've never been in this much fire. I mean, it's getting so bad that now her endorsements are potentially about to pull out. Representing.
She drops her Crazy Energy colorway athlete sponsored shoe. It's an Adidas shoe, and less than 1 hour online, it sells out in all sizes. She is very happy about that.
Sophie Cunningham just saw her very first signature shoe sell out completely. Honestly, at this point, it feels less like a surprise and more like the natural next step in a season that has completely changed how people see her.
It says, perfect. Good job, Reebok, for having a morals clause in her contract and enforcing it by pulling it. Carrington is a bully that the league apparently is protecting. Wake up, WNBA, before someone really gets hurt. You'll get sued because we Americans won't stand for this abuse.
While all of this is happening, Djonai Carrington is facing the complete opposite situation. She is watching her Reebok deal fall apart, seeing fans turn against her in real time, and dealing with how one decision on the court has turned into serious damage to her career that will not simply disappear after a week. Two players, two completely different paths, both connected to the exact same moment.
Common sense would have told you not to clothesline Sophie Cunningham from hell. Because you want to know why? The backlash you're going to get from that decision will affect your pockets. And I'm so happy that these brands are now seeing what we've been seeing. A whole lot of BS going on from these players. And I'm telling you right now, more players need to lose brand deals when they do stupid.
What makes this story interesting is not just that one player is doing well while the other is struggling. It is how closely connected their situations really are. Cunningham's rise did not happen by itself, and Carrington's fall did not happen by itself either. Both stories happened at the same time, during the exact same week and the same news cycle.
But Sophie Cunningham is the new superstar because of something she said about boys not playing in girls' sports. In fact, what she said was boys should not play in girls' sports. And you can imagine what happened next. There was massive uproar from people who think that boys should be able to play in girls' sports. So Sophie Cunningham was asked about that, and she said, I said what I said. And when she said, I said what I said, guess what? There was even more of an uproar. Psych. People were all like, you go, girl. By the way, this is what she does when she's 6'3", which she does a lot, apparently. But that's not all. You know what else people did other than saying, you go, girl? They went out and bought her shoes. These are her like Adidas Sophie Cunningham pink shoes, and you could get a pair, except you can't get a pair. Why? Because they're sold out. People ran out or went online or just they hit Zappos and they bought.
Let's start with the good news because there is a lot of it. Cunningham's Adidas Crazy Energy PE was released for $110 to $120, depending on the store. Within an hour, most sizes were sold out on Adidas.com. They did not sell out by the end of the day or even by the weekend. Most sizes were gone in about 60 minutes. Dick's Sporting Goods and Hibbett had some extra pairs for people who missed the first release, but that stock also disappeared quickly. For a player-exclusive shoe, this is not a normal release. These are the kind of sales numbers brands dream about when they sign a player, and Adidas got them almost immediately.
Y'all see what happened when this young lady got ejected from a WNBA game the other day for a flagrant foul on Sophie Cunningham? Did y'all see that? She got ejected from the game for that flagrant foul right there, and I'll be damned if that wasn't a flagrant too. She mugged her. Damn near came across like decapitating her, for crying out loud. That was definitely a hard foul. Make no mistake about it. Nobody can argue about it. You can say what you want. We know what we saw. No way around it. The Djonai Carrington foul was clearly unnecessary. It was a flagrant foul penalty too. It was absolutely positively correct call. It was called a flagrant two. That's a flagrant two every single damn time in the NBA and
it did not stop with the shoes selling out. Pairs that originally cost around $110 started appearing on resale websites for nearly $270, and people were actually buying them, not just listing them. That means the shoe more than doubled in value within just a few days. This shows that it was not only Fever fans buying the shoes to support Cunningham. Real sneaker fans were paying attention and treating her shoe like a limited release from an established star, not a role player getting her first signature deal. Adidas noticed this too, and they have been strongly supporting the moment by reposting fan content and promoting the shoe across all of their platforms.
Posted white privilege after getting tossed from the game, but says it wasn't about the foul. Can you explain this?
No, I can't. When she tweeted white privilege, she did it so quickly, it was almost as though she had the phone in her pocket after this foul and she got ejected. So, I mean, to say she wasn't referring to this play or getting kicked out and saying that the only reason she got kicked out and it got upgraded is because Sophie Cunningham is white is crazy. It was a crazy thing to tweet, maybe crazier than to try to act like it had nothing to do with the play. So I have no idea what she's talking about. I don't think anybody can have any idea what she's talking about. Bizarre.
Now this is where the story takes a different turn because none of the Adidas hype happened by itself. Just days before the shoe became this popular, Cunningham took a forearm to the face and neck from Djonai Carrington during a fast break. The foul was so clear that the officials quickly upgraded it to a flagrant 2 after reviewing the play. Carrington swung her arm, made contact with Cunningham's head while she was in a vulnerable position, and was automatically ejected under the rules. Cunningham got up bleeding and angry, and the entire league watched the moment happen in real time. That one play is the reason this whole situation has become what it is today.
If we are paying attention to what Djonai Carrington did to Sophie Cunningham, it was not a race-based decision. And to call that a white privilege-based foul is to completely undermine the term of white privilege and to also completely ignore the rules in basketball. You hit her in the head, you drew blood, you didn't connect with the ball at all whatsoever. So to me, it was just very ignorant and to some degree asinine by Djonai Carrington to suggest that that call was based on white privilege. Have we seen examples of white players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. Have we seen examples of black players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. There was no white privilege involved in that specific call. Djonai, you hit her in the head and you drew blood.
Because instead of the story ending with the ejection, Carrington posted 2 words on Threads just seconds after leaving the court, white privilege, while tagging the Indiana Fever directly. There was no context and no explanation, just those words sitting there for the entire internet to interpret. Given the timing, who she had just fouled, and which team she tagged, people were always going to take it in a certain way. This was the moment when things started going downhill for Carrington, and it happened because of her own post, not because of anything Cunningham did or said. The foul itself probably would have been forgotten within a week. Flagrant fouls happen often in the league without becoming season-defining stories. It was the post, and only the post, that changed the way this entire moment would be remembered.
I went to X and responded to Manuel Acho. He said, I never once claimed that the assessment of the foul was white privilege. That was your assumption. Try exercising your critical thinking skills. No, you studied psych. Furthermore, I'm the last thing from ignorant or asinine when it comes to speaking on white privilege. Do your research on that one. Actually went to school, one of the top universities, might I add, to educate myself on this exact subject. I would never use that term as a rhetorical weapon, knowing the historical and social weight it holds without having the proper evidence to substantiate it. So, in your face, Manuel. What I want to know is then why were you posting white privilege in the locker room immediately after being ejected? What were you? Randomly sitting in the locker room having just been ejected, thinking about when you posted white privilege, and by the way, tagged the Indiana Fever.
Emmanuel Ayo did not let it slide either on his show. He explained why the call had nothing to do with race, saying the flagrant foul was upgraded because Carrington hit Cunningham in the head and caused bleeding, not because of who committed the foul or who received it. He also reminded everyone that hard fouls like this happen between all kinds of players in the league, and the other incidents do not get labeled with such a serious phrase. He called the post ignorant and ridiculous. Those were strong words, but they reflected how many people watching the situation were already feeling.
Well, what is that on Djonai Carrington's feet? She got traded, signed to Reebok, and now all of a sudden, she getting the craziest PEs in the league? Sorry, Asia. Or maybe I'm not. We still got beef. We gotta get that closer look. What is that, cow print? She no Doja Cat? Nah, that's gas. That right there is hard. Oh yeah, I'm loving this. The pink laces, the pink hit on the bottom. This is a 10 out of 10 right here. It's gotta be. I love what's going on here. Reebok, release these. Not release these.
Carrington fired back instead of letting it go, and that is where the backtracking really started. In her response, she said that she never claimed the foul call itself was white privilege, that people were making assumptions, and that she attended one of the top universities to educate herself on the subject. The problem is that her response did not clearly explain why she posted those 2 words just seconds after being ejected while tagging the exact team of the player she had just fouled. When you are called out and respond by telling the person criticizing you to think more carefully instead of simply explaining what you meant, it can come across as deflection rather than clarification. Fair or not, that is how many people interpreted it. And once that impression is created, it can be very difficult to change it.
Reebok is reportedly dropping their endorsement for Djonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham. Let's go. Oh my God, it's getting real. It is getting very much real for in the field, for them pockets. That's what I like to see. Pockets getting hit hard, bro. Hard. Because somebody need to hold these players accountable for the stupidity they have been putting out. Because it has been a lot of stupidity. And to add even more insult to injuries, thousands of people are calling for Reebok to drop their endorsement for Djonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham.
To understand how much this could cost her, you have to go back to April 2025, when Reebok announced Carrington as one of the faces of its basketball comeback. It was presented as a multi-year deal, making her a brand ambassador for performance and lifestyle apparel, starting with the Engine sneaker line. At the time, it was a great move for both sides. She was not just hired for marketing. She was a player who had earned that opportunity through her performance on the court. That is why this situation hurts even more than it would for someone who was simply a face for a product. She had built something real with the brand, and now that relationship is reportedly falling apart quickly.
A lot of people are, getting behind this thing, and Djonai Carrington is on the brink of potentially losing millions of dollars with sponsorship. Here it says breaking thousands of people are calling Reebok to drop. This thing is everywhere, man. This thing is everywhere. So Djonai Carrington, man, on the brink of losing it all, and you just did too much. I mean, the flagrant foul was enough, but the whole white privilege thing, nasty and uncalled.
Fast forward to now, and reports say Reebok may be pulling back from the deal completely. Some reports even claim she could lose more than $50 million over the life of the contract. Brand deals of this size often include morality clauses, which allow a company to end the deal if an athlete's public behavior creates controversy that could hurt the brand. A hard foul is one thing. Teams and leagues can deal with that through suspensions and fines. But a viral social media post about race, especially one being criticized by a former NFL player on national television, creates a much bigger problem. It is the kind of headline a company like Reebok may not want connected to its name.
So flagrant foul, penalty 2. Since there's wind-up, impact, and follow-through, high potential for injury, players in a vulnerable position.
I mean, that's an obvious call. And anyone who has watched this league and any other prior flagrants would tell you as soon as they saw one replay of that was going to be a flagrant 2.
You could tell watching it live it was going to be a flagrant 2.
And the fan reaction seems to support that. Carrington reportedly made her Threads account private after receiving a large number of negative comments, with some accounts sharing screen recordings showing criticism coming in quickly. This was not just a small group of angry fans. The response was strong and happened so quickly that she reportedly chose to lock her page instead of continuing to deal with the comments. When a player feels the need to hide her social media from the public, it shows that the damage may go beyond one bad news cycle. Now step back and look at the full picture, because the contrast is hard to ignore. Cunningham has spent the season being one of the more outspoken defenders of Caitlin Clark, speaking about how the league and officials handle the physical treatment Clark receives during games. That brought criticism from some parts of the league, but it also helped make Cunningham one of the most talked about and marketable personalities in the WNBA right now. Adidas clearly saw the value in that. That is what makes this situation so difficult to watch. It is not simply that Carrington made an emotional mistake after a hard ejection. It is that the reaction, the way it was presented, and the failure to clearly explain or take responsibility for it turned a moment that might have passed into a story that could cost her money and trust. It is a strange situation to watch because two careers are moving in completely different directions because of the same 30 seconds of basketball. Cunningham was hit in the face, handled herself calmly afterward, and then saw her brand value grow. Carrington committed the foul, reacted emotionally online, and is now reportedly watching her sponsor pull away.
Where this thing gets absolutely bananas is when you start making it into a race and culture war, and the people talking about it are not mentioning 99% of the time that she went back and tweeted white privilege. White privilege how? You made a dirty play. Sophie Cunningham, everyone's putting up clips of her like tackling a player on a drive, defending Caitlin, you say? Well, she got kicked out of the game for that
Put yourself
too.
in Reebok's position for a moment. You signed a player to be one of the faces of your relaunch, someone who is supposed to represent the brand in campaigns, on social media, and in every piece of marketing. Then that same player becomes the center of a national conversation about race and sports. She gets directly criticized by a well-known former athlete and broadcaster on his own show, and then spends days publicly arguing about the situation instead of quickly explaining her point and moving on. Every day the story stays in the news is another day Reebok's name is connected to it, whether the company wants that or not. Brands usually do not want this kind of controversy. That is why reports of the deal falling apart can make sense from a business point of view, regardless of how anyone feels about the basketball play itself. Right now, keeping Carrington as a face of Reebok's basketball comeback could mean that future campaigns are judged through the controversy instead of the actual products. For a brand trying to rebuild its basketball image, that is a risk it may not be willing to take. Here is the part that probably hurts Carrington the most: none of this had to happen. The foul itself, even though it looked bad, likely would have faded from the WNBA news cycle within a few days. It could have been just another flagrant foul, another ejection, and another debate about physical play in the league. Instead, the 2 words she posted turned a normal ejection into a much bigger debate about her judgment, her brand value, and her relationship with her fans. She has reportedly gone quiet online, made her account private, and now faces the possibility that a deal reportedly worth tens of millions of dollars may not survive the controversy. There was another possible outcome. Carrington could have clearly explained what she meant within hours of the original post. The controversy might have died down within a few days, and the situation may never have become a problem for Reebok. That option was available to her from the beginning. Instead, the back and forth with Aiko, the comments about critical thinking, and the long defense of a post that still has not been clearly explained all kept the story alive much longer than the original foul probably would have.
When you have one of your players who commits a clear flagrant 2 and then tweets white privilege right after she goes to the locker room, you can't then cry that this is being talked about in racial terms in a culture. She started that. This is a basketball play. The second you go white privilege, and they are talking about it on these telecasts without mentioning what she tweeted. Oh, they're turning into a culture war, turning into a race war. This is our league. Don't let conservatives or the right hijack it. Your player tweeted white privilege. And
nothing about this is permanent. Athletes have come back from much bigger public relations problems than this. Carrington still has time on the court to rebuild some of that trust if she wants to, but rebuilding trust takes more than talent. It also takes accountability. Right now, the story is still focused on her backtracking instead of any real resolution. Until that changes, brands may continue to keep their distance, while Cunningham's Adidas momentum could keep growing. This comparison between the 2 players will likely continue whenever either name starts trending again. The next few weeks could be very important. One player turned a physical and sometimes ugly moment into one of the biggest commercial stories in the league this season. The other turned one ejection into a much bigger problem than the foul itself and is now dealing with business consequences that are still unfolding. Both stories are still being written, but right now, only one of them is moving in the right direction.